The moment you walked into the Gay Straight Alliance Network office in Southeast Fresno, you felt safe. The sole worker for the Fresno office was a magnificent woman named Diana. She was shorter with a short, flat-top haircut that would prove to be an iconic fashion statement in the softest, kindest voice you've ever heard. Even though her passion for justice, she channeled the negativity we experienced as queer folks into an enthusiastic call to fight for equality. She was the epitome of inclusivity. Gay Straight Alliance Network is a non-profit that is still working hard today. Back when I was a member, the Fresno office was the only third office in the state after San Francisco and Los Angeles. Diana worked her butt off to get the word out, and before long there was an organized monthly meeting with representatives from most of the high schools in the Fresno/Clovis area. The organization's focus was to bridge all of the GSAs into one organized network so we could fight against discrimination as a whole. And it was working. Clovis Unified was scared of us. Diana guided all of us, queer kids, so gracefully. She dealt with our drama, confronted our insecurities, and empowered us to think. She coordinated conferences and resource fairs, and we were all loyal and dedicated to our core. Our monthly meetings were always something we looked forward to. This was before the day of dating apps, so we gays had to be out in person to meet each other. The organization held a conference once a year that invited youth from the entire Central Valley to come together. It was beautifully named Expression, Not Suppression, and it was filled with educational workshops and surprising guests, and ended with a beautifully executed dance. It always felt so special. One year we had a talent portion, and I was the MC. I don't know how well I did, but it was a lot of fun, and I felt like I was doing something extremely important. Shortly after the conference, my mom passed away. GSA Network suddenly became my only safe space. And my strong personality and heavy emotions took over the first meeting we had afterwards. I didn't know what to do. I was scared, lonely, and exhausted. My family knew how much I adored Diana, and as she was also a Methodist preacher, we asked Diana to officiate my mom's funeral. She did a beautiful job, truly capturing my mom's free spirit and her delivery. Even though my grief, I could focus on the words she so delicately chose. A few months later, Diana told us during a meeting that she would be leaving the organization. She had received an offer to be a priest full-time at a church up in the foothills above Fresno, in a small community called Oakhurst. It was a blow. I sat there with a drained face for the rest of the meeting. She was going to help find her perfect replacement before she left and promised she would still be a part of my life. I had this huge connection to her, and I couldn't imagine not seeing her as often as I had been. A group of us, who Diana had affectionately nicknamed the Super Queers, helped the organization welcome Diana's replacement. Omi, who was a firecracker, while they were nothing like Diana, they had a fire and vitality that pumped new energy into the organization. They had a radical activist mindset and were ready to help us embrace the use of art in our activism. Omi was perfect for the job and helped change so many lives, as Diana had done before them. We adored Omi, but we missed Diana, who was prospering at her new church. Diana invited us to attend the services, and we finally decided to take her up on her offer. Many of us were survivors of religious trauma, and she was aware of that, so assured us that her church was open and affirming. It didn't even care if guests were Christian or not. They loved people, and since they had hired a very obviously queer pastor like Diana, it seemed like it would be safe enough. Diana picked up a small group of us one Sunday afternoon, and we made the 45-minute ascent into the foothills for evening services. It was a beautiful day, and as we approached the church, we could tell it was different. They had messages of love and positivity everywhere, and a rainbow flag proudly flying. We arrived early so Diana could prepare. Tonight was going to be her first big sermon with the church. She had been there a few weeks, but this was an introduction of sorts. Her message of love and community was beautiful and received with open arms by her parishioners. We queer kids sat together looking around in the crowd. Oakhurst wasn't known to be the most diverse faces, and many of us visitors had more melanin than the average person in the room. But those beautiful people in the room gave no notice to the many brown kids in their pews. Instead, their focus was glued on Diana. There was a potluck after service, and we had the chance with the new flock of Diana supporters. The church had a social justice mindset that championed inclusivity. They didn't care if we kids didn't believe in Jesus. They made us feel as loved despite that fact. They adored us, and seeing our bright, young, diverse faces just solidified that they had made the right choice by welcoming Diana as their new leader. The next few months, we went to church up in Oakhurst every Sunday. We didn't feel the spirit of Jesus inside of us, but we adored the feeling of acceptance and fellowship. Most of the church was made up of older, straight, white people who felt it was their duty through their faith to love and accept every single person. For many of us queer kids, attending the church was about healing from our own traumas. Not embracing beliefs we don't follow, it was about love. We would bow our heads to pray. We would sing the joyous hymns. We participated in church activities and introduced newer queer kids from the city to our little community tucked away in the foothills below Yosemite. And yet, we were never pressured to convert any sort of belief system. We were never criticized for open disbelief of God. We were met with compassion and empathy from our past and offered a chance to just be ourselves while surrendered by Christianity. It was stunning to witness and be a part of. Finally, the day came when I had to leave. Not the church itself, California in general. That last Sunday, before I departed, the members gave me a grand goodbye. They prayed for my safety and bestowed presents and money upon me to help me thrive. They knew all about my hardships in the few months since my mom's passing and genuinely wanted me to succeed in life. I moved back to Fresno 5 months later and tried to regenerate myself back into old circles. While my friends were there, they had stopped going to church. The new leadership youth with GSA network were excelling. I had gone up to the church once, and everyone was excited to see me. But it wasn't the same. I was different. They were different, and I didn't know where I belonged. I had these blinders on as my life was still in shambles. I was trying to recreate history. I even showed up at Diana's apartment unexpectedly one day. She had always been my security blanket and welcomed us with open arms, but I was encroaching on 20. I wasn't a youth anymore. She wasn't my leader anymore. Am I encroaching on her life like she had? The answers was met with brutal honesty. A wake-up call I desperately needed. Diana was a part of some of my biggest successes, and she was there during my darkest days. But it was time to grow and learn about being led. I think about those days often and all the important lessons about compassion she taught me, lessons I use in everyday life. She helps mold me, and whether she will ever know it or not, she's my life this greatest hero.